Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order of March 11, 2025, of the Common Council Executive Committee. So with that said, we had the approval of the minutes.
No, you gotta call roll.
Oh, we had a call roll, I'm sorry. I'm trying to follow this agenda. I can't get this stuff. Okay, yes, Karen, can you please do a call roll for me?
President Figueroa Cole,
Here.
Vice President Duncan. Here. Alder Govindarajan. Here. Alder Conklin.
Present.
Alder Martinez Rutherford.
I'm here.
Alder Uguer. Present. Alder Harrington McKinney.
Present.
And Alder Curry. Oh, you have quorum. Oh, there's
there she
Alder,
is.
Alder Curry. You have quorum.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, so now we move into the approval of the minutes from February 25th. Can I get a second? Second. Yeah, MGR. All right. Are there any questions or changes to the minutes of 225? I don't see any hands up. Is it okay to record unanimous vote in approval of the minutes? If not, please raise your hand. Okay, with that, we pass the minutes. They're approved. All right. The next item on the agenda is the public comment. Karen, do we have any speakers for today's meeting?
We have no speakers, but one registrant on item number 3, opposed, not wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that takes us to disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city ethics code. Anybody that needs to make a statement, please raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised, so we'll move on. So, Attorney Haas is in the meeting, so he's running a little bit late. Is it okay with the body to move agenda item 87 to 8A to go first? Is there any objection to do that? He did send me a statement about that agenda item, but I'd rather he be here. All right, so with that, with no objections, then we're gonna move to item 3, 87-288, creating section 2.37 of the Madison General Ordinances related to removal of hearings to prescribe hearing procedures to consider removal of alders from the Common Council. And for this one, again, Attorney Haas is not here. I can, do you want to take a quick?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Elder Herta McKinney.
thank you for recognizing me. It is very important that the attorney be present for the discussion of this item and really for the one that we passed on. I mean, to have the city attorney not in this meeting when there will be specific questions related to duties, roles, and responsibilities for the city. I'm not comfortable with moving forward without him being in these discussions.
I mean, can we, are these questions that perhaps we can cover? He will be at the meeting at the next meeting, and he should be here in the next 20 minutes. But if you have specific questions that we haven't covered already,
I have questions that I would like the city attorney to be in the room to clarify.
Vice President Duncan, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, if Alder Harrington does have questions for the attorney, if we could run the council office updates and come back to this once Attorney Johnson's arrived.
Sure. We can do that. So then we move to cancel of days, 86-7-17. Karen, can you please provide some update?
Yes, I am not able to share my screen, but that is okay. I'll send this out to everyone after we're done here. It's pretty brief. We've got the BCC streamlining project. Current phase is wrapping up with council action tonight, and review of BCC staff training materials is already underway. So we are moving on to the next phase of that project to improve the materials for training the staff. Alder onboarding, again, I want to remind anybody who, just to prepare, anyone who's returning or potentially returning to council, the council leadership elections will be in person with a paper ballot at the noon meeting. So again, if there's a chance you'll be coming back, please prepare to come to that meeting in person so that we can do a paper ballot vote. With the new M365 updates and the multi-factor authentication, processes that we have now, it takes a little bit longer to transition from outgoing to incoming, and so we didn't want there to be any problems with the voting, or with the process of getting the leadership election done. So we're just asking folks to please be prepared to come in person. And then I just have some information about some city training. I know there has been interest in the gender inclusive workplace and gender inclusive language trainings, and organizational development now has an on-demand training, a couple of sessions with materials and recording. So instead of needing to find time to attend a live training, you can now attend at your convenience. There's also a number of other ones in that on-demand portal, so I have a link to that. That might be helpful for folks who are not able to make it to the scheduled times. So that's about all.
That's your update? Okay, thank you, Karen. Okay, so that's 86-7-17. As for other committee updates, is there any updates from any committees that we should be paying attention to or of interest that anyone wants to share? This is one down. Oh, there you go. Okay, so we'll move away from that also. I mean, again, I don't know if, does anyone else has any, going back to the position, the one item that we table, are there any other questions other than Arrington McKinney that the body, or any discussions that the body wants to have regarding the hearing process? Alder Govindaraj.
If anyone doesn't mind, I would love to hear just any changes that might have been made and relevant, I guess.
From the last two meetings?
Yes,
Yes.
if you're looking for questions specifically.
We took changes on the last meeting, the last time that this was here, and then we asked Haas to just put that on the ordinance change. So no, there was no additional changes.
Okay, that is all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to put it back. I'm going to put this. I'm sorry. Who's this? Alder Curry.
Thank you, Chair. I believe, I can't find it now. Thought there was a question, but I guess I'm a little confused. We're waiting for Attorney Haas to give us an overview before we move in the discussion.
Well, I honestly didn't. Since we had discussed this a few times already, I didn't think we need an overview, but a member of the body needs to ask some questions, so that's where we are.
I asked this prior, but I also did not offer alternative or suggestive language. The question around tax-paying resident. And then I believe there was a question that we had received from the public regarding who, like, clarifying whether or not, let's say I'm a member of the public and I want to make a complaint against an alder that is not representing me. So maybe some clarification about that, or like, what's that called? You know, like at the bottom of documents sometimes, where there'll be like an asterisk, and then you kind of provide a broader definition of that term.
To definition, I mean, there's the definitions on the top, so you want a definition for those?
Footnote, thank you. I think it just continues, especially if we're open in the process for members of the public. It seems like that still seems to be a gray area of who can, and if it's not your alder. So I don't know how to, I'm sorry, my brain is not working well today.
Yeah, so regarding the footprint, though, I don't think we put that. We just put it definitions. We use the definition section at the top of the ordinances to create somewhat of a glossary, so I'm sure there will be no problem indicating that there. When it comes to the tax implication, the way that we had discussed it multiple times is that the statute doesn't define what kind of tax. It can be property tax, it can be sale tax, it could be wheel tax, for what I care. Yeah, so any tax. So it doesn't, the statute doesn't limit what kind of tax that person is paying, the resident of the city is paying on that. And then in regards to the alder, the statute doesn't define who can play in the complaint. It doesn't tell you have to be it has to be your alder. It just says that you have to be a resident of the city, and then you have to pay some sort of tax, and then have a verified complaint, which is the part where you have to create an affidavit and take it to the clerk's office. So it doesn't have to be once Hus gets here, I'm sure he'll be, because there was a few pieces there that I had suggested to put as definitions, and then I think I backed down from them, but we can revisit and maybe add some of that clarity.
Okay, thank you. Also, maybe more for record-keeping purposes, the attachment, unless I'm looking at something wrong in Legistar, takes, instead of to the wording itself, is a email from the public. The linked attachment in Legistar.
Oh, because it turned,
Comment attached to the.
because it turned into an ordinance.
It's an ordinance, I mean. Sorry, the reason that that's like that is because I thought that since this is an item of broad interest to the council, that normally we attach things to when things come to council, folks, when they're sending in their written public comment, they would like it to be attached to the item itself. So I asked it to be attached to that item so the member of the public, when we get to the meeting tonight, knows that that was attached. So it's what we do with other things.
So, but I think Alder Curry is correct me if I'm wrong, Alder Curry, are you saying that, are you asking to attach the original, the PDF files from before that we used on the original discussions to this file? Or is it not listed as the body of the,
It's here.
is the body of the,
I mean, the text is here. Oh,
So that I think to help clarify, the attachment, it says all the procedure. Am I? Oh, there we go. The attachment in it says alder removal procedure instead of like public comment, and that's where I think the issue is. But yeah.
okay, thank you. I will get that clarified.
already. So I will say I'm going to put this out to the body. I texted Attorney Haas, but again, he's in another meeting, so I don't expect him to answer. we can take a 10-minute recess, I guess. Alder Duncan? Yep. So go ahead, push it, please.
Motion to recess for 10 minutes.
There you go. We can do that. Okay, thank you. I mean, is there a objection to record unanimous vote for a 10-minute adjournment? Recess, I'm sorry. Don't see any hands, so we'll recess for 10 minutes. Thank you. We return here at 5 o'clock. So what is the? Are we back?
Yeah, and then we have to call roll again.
Already, so calling a motion, right? Do we need a motion to bring it back in or
No,
not?
we just bring it back in and then make the roll
Okay,
call.
well, let's just do another roll call to bring this meeting back alive. Attorney Haas is in the room.
President Figueroa Cole?
Here.
Vice President Duncan? Alder Govindarajan? Alder Conklin?
Present.
Alder Martinez Rutherford?
Present.
Alder Ugair? Present. Alder Harrington McKinney?
And present.
Alder Curry? All right, you have quorum.
Thank you, Karen. So with that, I think we had tables on them, but we had a motion and a second, right? So I don't have to take a motion and a second again.
No, we didn't get anything. We just had the recess motion and second.
No, we had,
No, nobody made a motion on this yet because
Okay.
questions for staff, I think, is where we were left.
okay.
Questions for staff is where we're at, I think.
All right, so Attorney Haas is in the room, and we're going to go then to, I guess we can start from the beginning and well, since we already had some discussion on item 3, I think it was, I'm trying to get back the agenda. And item 3, Attorney Haas, is the hearing process. There was some questions on the room for you, so now is the time for the body to raise their hand, and there you go. Alder Harrington McKinney has some questions.
So, Madam Chair, please help me because I'm lost. How did we dispose of item number 286825?
We haven't, we skipped it to discuss this one first.
Okay, can we go ahead and dispose, because our time is, of course, you understand, our time is running out. Can we just go and dispose of 2 and then move directly into 3? And so that way we'll go back through our agenda as it's printed?
Well, I rather we continue the conversation since we already were discussing this item before Attorney Haas got here.
Well, I mean, the item number 2, we tabled it from the last executive committee meeting to this executive committee meeting. So we really, I think that we should dispel of that and, so that we can just
Yep.
move on and have a clean agenda.
Yeah, so since we're already discussing item 3, can we just ask the question, and I'm sure we have time to discuss both of them, that's the intent. So what questions do you have for item 3, please?
Okay. So for item 3, the reason that I wanted Attorney Haas in the room, let me click up the full text. In terms of the order of the hearing process, it had the alders making the determination of the fitness or suitability of the complaint and then the hearing. And so my question to Attorney Haas, how can the alders have the experience to make a determination whether this is a viable complaint or not? It just seemed like things are out of order it just seemed out of order for me.
Sure. Thank you for the question. I'm just going to get the language here so I can refer to it. Okay, so I believe you're referring to 4C in the ordinance.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So according to my notes, I was going through the notes, And the questions were for cause, complaint, a written verbal charges, and then it added the city attorney's office to transmit the complaint. And then it said, if the council determines the complaint is true, then the city attorney shall prepare and introduce an authorizing resolution, da 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 da.
Right.
And so the reason that I wanted you in the room is how can the alders make that determination without having all the facts? And so it seems like it's a process that should be independently assessed. And so that's why I wanted you in the room. I needed clarity on that point. So could you speak to that for me, please?
Sure. It's a good question, Alder, because this is, as you probably discussed, this basic procedure is spelled out in the statutes, but not to this detail. And this is a provision that we inserted for the council to consider. It's not, I would not say it's required or mandatory. I thought it would be helpful because I could imagine a complaint being filed that no reasonable person would think had to do with the alder's fitness or responsibilities as an alder. You can think just some ridiculous complaint that did not warrant a hearing. And I think there's a little bit of distinction though between what you said and what the ordinance says. It says the council is to determine whether the allegations, if true, would state a claim for removal of an alder under the statute. So what we would be asking is for the council to assume that all of the allegations are true. Just don't have, weigh into consideration what the alder might say. If the allegations are true, would that state a claim for removing the alder? And if the answer is no, and there's a consensus on that, in my mind, there's no reason for the council to proceed with a hearing. And this is something that judges do routinely in court cases. There can be a motion filed and the defendant says, okay, judge, even if you assume that everything is true, what I did is not against the law. And so we dismiss it at that point. We don't go ahead with the trial. And so we inserted that step as sort of a guardrail or a breaking point for the council to have the right to say, this does not even merit a hearing. This is not even a complaint. Somebody does not like that the alder went to Walmart instead of Costco, or something personal to that alder that has nothing to do with their job. And it was.
And so you just spoke to why I would want that determination or to have some input from the attorney's office, because you're asking the alders to make a determination whether this is a fit or a not fit. And so to have that determination and making that recommendation to the body to say that this is not a fit or this is a fit seems, and that's where I want the placement. It seemed that when the city attorney who recommends and make recommendations to the body comes in after that decision-making process, where I would assume that it should come before that determination factor to assist us in making those determinations. That's why I wanted you in the room, because I did not understand the placement after rather than the placement before.
Right. So, this doesn't talk at all about the city attorney making a recommendation. It just gives direction to the city attorney, depending on what decision the council makes. And I'm not quite following you about before or after, but I would compare this to any advice that our office gives to the council, we can't, in most cases, even if we think what the council is about to decide would be thrown out in court, usually we don't dictate to the council how you can vote. We can give you our best advice and our best counsel, and we have to leave the decision up to the council. And now there may be cases where it is so clear to us that this is beyond the pale that we may say, in our view, this does not warrant a hearing, but we still can't tell you individually how to vote. And we want to reserve
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. I understand that that determination is not made by you.
Yeah.
But when you, and you are I'm not calling you a consultant to the council, but you're never telling us, don't do that. I'm not expecting you to do that. But I am expecting, just as we call on the staff to, have a better clarification related to A, B, or C, I would expect a better clarification from the attorney to help in that determination. And I'm going around in a circle, but that's exactly why I wanted you in the room.
Yeah, I think what we could assist with is, again, kind of outlining to the council what is the standard, just like Kate Smith would explain what are the standards for a conditional use permit. We would explain the standard at this stage of the proceedings is, if you believe everything is true, do you think it would state enough to remove an alder? And then later on, you decide, if the answer is yes, later on, you collect all the facts and decide whether the allegations are actually true. So we would be there to help, again, explain what the legal standard is, maybe help the council through the process of making a decision without telling the council what the decision should be. Does that make sense?
Some input, but as I'm reading it from how you just explained it, where is I want the city attorney to have some input, some direction, something, rather than the council making a decision and then the allegations are either proven false or not false. And I just seem to feel more comfortable if the city attorney had some kind of role in that process in the beginning. Is there any way that the city attorney can be in that? Because the way it's written, it is the council makes a decision, and then if the council makes a decision, then the attorney is directed to act. And so I'm just asking is that how can that consultation from the attorney be prior to the action?
Well, I mean, I think 2 points. Although the ordinance doesn't say specifically, doesn't talk about the city attorney's role. The city attorney's role is the same in this as it would be in any process. We help advise the council. And I don't think it's necessary to say in here, the city attorney will, advise the council on the proper standards and the procedure, because we do that all the time. I'm not sure what, what else we would need to include in the language of the ordinance. We're obviously at every council meeting, we would be available to answer questions and provide guidance at any stage. And we're not saying that the city attorney is cut out of this process or is not doing their job if the council has questions for us.
Okay.
I mean, is there any specific, what specifically do you think is omitted from here that we need to include?
Well, I mean, this is this is very serious. I mean, of course, it's very serious. And as I said, when I read it, and I'll read it again, before we go through the council for a vote. And it seemed to me, as how it was outlined, it does not give the opportunity, I thought, for consideration, because it puts a determination of these are the facts fits. So the council, whoever the makeup of the council is, it says that, yes, this sounds right, yes, this fits, and now there's action, and then we pass it on to the attorney to set up the investigation. I'm calling it an investigation.
Right. I mean, the council is really passing it on to itself to conduct a hearing. We are just facilitating that by drafting a resolution, setting up the logistics, things like that. Yeah, right. We're not conducting an investigation.
Well, you would pass it on to have the investigation done, though.
No, there's not an investigation, there's a hearing.
A hearing, you would pass it on. So the council would give the city attorney instructions to have and hold a hearing.
Correct.
Is that correct?
To start the process for holding a hearing, correct. So that could include hiring a hearing examiner that would conduct the hearing. We would assist the hearing examiner, everything that's laid out. I mean, our role really then is just to facilitate the process, to help set up the logistics, help the hearing examiner, draft documents if we need to, things like that.
And so a follow-up question, and then I'll just leave it alone, is that with the role of the city attorney setting up the process, what happens to the process if it is determined that there actually is, I'm not saying no substance, but
if the council at that initial stage states that the allegations, or concludes that the allegations would not be enough for removal, even if they were true, then the complaint is dismissed. That's the end of the process.
okay.
Attorney Haas, so also these section give us an opportunity to identify things that may be better suited for the ethics board, for example.
Oh,
You can say this is not, you don't need a hearing for that, you can go to the ethics board and we can refer the people to the ethics board, right?
Right. I mean, there's a couple of options. I mean, I think yes, and it could be appropriate for the ethics board, but also say the ethics board.
Makes a recommendation. for
Yeah,
removal.
the ethics board may make a recommendation, or even if the ethics board doesn't recommend a sanction, somebody might decide that whatever was brought out at the ethics board hearing is enough to bring it to the council
Got it.
for removal.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I don't see any other hands up, but I want to again to just repeat some of the things that we discussed earlier while you were out. A definition of a taxpayer.
Right,
And where is that coming from? Yeah, thank you.
Right, the statute says that a complaint can be filed by a resident taxpayer, and it doesn't say whether this is a property taxpayer, an income taxpayer, sales taxpayer. So we just used the wording in the language and decided we would, tackle that issue if it comes up. But for now, I was not putting any restrictions at all on that definition about who a taxpayer might be.
And the other question is about who can anyone put a claim forward regardless if they're in their district or not, if they're other district or not.
Right, right. The statute only requires that it be a resident taxpayer, so they have to be a resident of the city of Madison, not necessarily of the district.
Correct? And I'm sorry, I'm just popping here a quiz for you, just making sure. And there was also, we got an email asking about recall process, and I do know the
Right.
answer to this. There's a recall process, which is different process than this. I just couldn't remember if it was on the same statute number, maybe?
No, that's in Chapter 9,
Chapter 9, that's
right, and it requires that there be a petition filed, I think it's 20 to 25% of, equal to 20 or 25% of the number of people who voted in the last November election.
And you had to create a committee, but that one actually has a lot of information on it.
Right,
So
right.
that, if people want more information about that, definitely we can provide that statute. But it's a different, there is a process for a recall, which is different than a hearing. And on regards to the cost, I mean, to the people that needs to be hired, why do we need to have a stenographer? Is that also a statute? Or
To have what?
hire someone to transcribe the?
Oh, correct. Right. The statutes also require that we have a transcription of the hearing.
And lastly, if we didn't have a hearing process, which all we're doing here is creating logistics for the statute, can anyone request a hearing today and without having a process?
Correct. The statute still allows for the basics of this hearing process, so there could be a complaint filed even without this ordinance.
Thank you. Alrighty, so thank you for all that clarification. Any other questions on this regard? I don't see any hands up, so can I get a motion for, let's start A7 to 8.8? And a second? Got a motion on approval. I'm going to ask, but if you guys want a roll call, we can do that too. So is there any objection on recording a unanimous vote and approval?
A roll call, please.
Thank you. So Karen, please.
Vice President Duncan?
Aye.
Alder Govindarajan? Alder Conklin?
Yes.
Alder Martinez Rutherford?
Yes.
Alder Ugair? And Alder Harrington McKinney?
No.
5 ayes and 1 no.
Okay, so the motion passes, and then we can go ahead and thank you everyone for the discussion and all the questions. So we are going to go ahead and move on to item 2. The agenda printed. Oh, I found it. Got it. Agenda item number 2, 86-825, amending section 33.016 of the Madison General Ordinance related to Alder appointments to boards, commissions, and committees to change the appointment terms. So I'm going to go back to my regular process. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
A second, please. Okay, so I understand there's an amendment and an alternate, so I don't know which one we want to discuss. Is the alternate the second one?
Well, since these are all sponsored by Alder Tischler, he might have a preference for which one he wants to.
Which one are we talking about, Alder Tischler? Oh,
Be the proposed alternate number 2.
okay. So, okay, thank you. I'll
3 on the, it'd be number 3 on the, on Legistar. So I know this is confusing, so it's
Okay, I'm
3,
gonna go into the-
number 3, the title
second
is,
Tischler proposal alternate.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Alder Govindarajan, do you have a question?
I was told we need a motion for this earlier, so on behalf of Alder Tischler, I'd like to motion the second alternate forward.
The second alternate, oh, sure. That's a good one. Do I second for that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and 2 seconds. Okay, so who wants to talk about this?
The sponsor, I would start with.
Okay, there you go. Start with the sponsor. Alder Tischler, can you get that?
Yes, thank you, President. Yeah, after I sent out an email to all alders yesterday at 4 o'clock, so I wouldn't spend too much time talking tonight. Basically, this is a revision of an alternate that takes into consideration 1-year appointments. And that was that, and for alders that are serving on if there's just one alder who's serving on a committee, then there'd be a 1-year appointment. If there are 2 or more alders serving on a committee, then there'd be it'd match our existing aldermanic terms, 2 years. I went through all of the different committees, and there really boils down to about 7 committees where there's just one alder serving. Later tonight, we'll be voting to kind of consolidate a couple of committees, so that, and some of those just have one alder. Those will be merged into other committees. So then, again, it'd fit with the 2-year terms that we all currently have right now. This is based off of kind of conversations with city staff. That was one of the concerns, that we'd be making more work for city staff. What I feel is what I'm putting forth here actually will create less work. And again, by adding the additional language to have 1-year alder serving on a committee, 1-year appointments, two alders or more, it would be then 2-year appointments, which is currently the what we have right now. Everything else remains the same from our discussion from February 11th.
Thank you, Alder Tischler. Alder Harrington McKinney.
Thank you for the recognition. I am supporting the second alternate because it seems less clunky. It says appointed for terms expiring with their respective aldermanic terms. It seems cleaner and less clunkier than the language of the original one, and so definitely it is the same context, but it's cleaner because it's very clear. If it's an alder who has a 1-year term, then that expiration is 1 year. If it's a 2-year term, that expiration is 2. So it's a lot less clunkier, and so that's why I'm supporting. Everything else remains the same, but that one piece of it just seemed to have it read more fluently and wasn't as clunky for me.
Are there any other, Alder Duncan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. After reviewing the alternate and then the original, I still feel, from my standpoint, I'm going to be supporting the original. I think that from the aspect of just having to navigate of which commission has this and which commission has that, 1-year term, 2-year term, both having districts, a positive, a even district or a odd district, I think will make it even more confusing and difficult for staff to navigate. So I will be not supporting the alternate, but the original.
Thank you, Alder. I think there was a task asked on the last meeting from Attorney Haas to speak to other municipalities that are doing staggering terms. And will you please mind providing an update on that regard before other questions are discussed? Attorney Haas?
Sure. I think we were asked to check specifically with Fitchburg and Middleton. So I talked to both of those city attorneys. Fitchburg said they weren't aware of any issues. They've been using 1-year terms on their committees for years. The Middleton Assistant City Attorney, City Attorney, who's been there since the longtime city attorney retired within the last couple of years, but had been involved as an assistant city attorney for a couple decades, said that he has never heard any concerns about it or controversy about it. He said he suspected that if there were conflicts, that they were either resolved by seniority or the mayor speaking with the alders and trying to work out an agreement if they could. But in both cases, I think those communities also have a lot fewer committees than Madison has. But it generally seems to be baked into the process, and it doesn't seem to have been any controversial process, is my understanding.
Thank you, Attorney Haas. Alder Tischler.
So I'm wondering if there's any city staff from the mayor's office available, like I could ask a question to. That, if we're not at that point in the meeting.
Hi, this is Sam, Chief of Staff. I am available.
Thank you.
Apologies, I'm off
Thank you,
camera,
Sam.
but yep, happy to answer questions.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main concerns was about workload and how this would affect city staff. I just wanted to see if you could address that question, if this would create additional work, or if this alternate would make it easier for city staff, given that we wouldn't have 20 alders turning over every year.
Yep. Thanks, Alder. And so from the mayor's office perspective, I think that the move to alternating terms requires that the system of appointments be changed in some respect that will inevitably cause some additional work for city staff, specifically the appointments manager in our office. Alder Tischler consulted with the appointments manager, and some of the other staff were involved in the appointments process. And I think it was their view and ours as an office that the second alternate, the most recent version, would create the least additional administrative hassle of the versions, would create less than the prior, the original proposed language, because it avoids the need to add additional alders to committees that currently only have one. So that at least removes some of that burden. The even odd setup of having one alder from an even district and one from an odd district, so that they're not both turning over at the same time on committees with two alders. There's still some work involved with that, but at any rate, it was the view of the staff who do appointments that the second proposed alternate would be preferable from our perspective, and would create the least additional administrative burden. I hope that was clear. I'm sorry. There's multiple proposed alternates, and it's a little bit complicated, but hopefully that answered your question, and appreciate that the alder took the time to consult with the relevant staff about the language and make those changes.
All right. No, thank you. No further questions.
Alder, Council President Duncan, Council Vice President Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to get clarification, Sam, so with the original language and then the proposed alternate that we're having conversations on now, would that cause more work than the original language that was put in place, or is it equal balance, I guess?
It's a good question, and I think the answer more or less is that it's about 6 of one and half dozen of the other. because the original language would have required redoing all of the would be it's effectively the same as the current system. So that's somewhat more straightforward, but the appointments would have to be made every year rather than every 2 years. So it's in some sense twice as much work, or it's more frequent. Whereas this adds a layer of complication involved in having one alder from an even district and one from an odd district on committees with 2 alders, but that means less frequent appointments or reappointments. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't think there was a consensus about which of those was easier. Our office is more or less, I would say, agnostic between those two, between the original and the second alternate, because we think it's like I said, kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, or reasonable minds could disagree about which was easier and which wasn't. And we'd rather have the council decide how it wants to do appointments in that event. But we do think that the second proposed alternate is preferable to the prior alternate. Hopefully, again, that was a relatively clear answer.
Any other questions from the body? There's someone with a hand up, but I don't know who that is. Oh, I found it. Alder Harrington McKinney?
Yes, referring back to the original statement, it said shall be concurrent with the responsive automatic term for a term expiring on the 3rd Tuesday of the following April. That was the language of the original. And when I said it was, I used the term clunky. And so thank you to Deputy Mayor Munger for at least saying the simplification of the ones who's going to be doing these adjustments. But even just reading the language, even for a member of the community reading the language, just trying to understand what is it saying, what is it telling. And so if we're able to, number one, decrease the amount of work that goes into making those appointments, that's a win-win. But the clarity of the proposed amendment in the drafters analysis, just for, the John Q. Public, just reading that, it just seems very simple. It's simple. It's at the end of the term. And so as we're making these adjustments, if we can make the adjustments where the average person reading this can understand it, that's a good thing. And so as we read it, as I read it in the original proposal, just reading it, it's like, oh, the 3rd Tuesday of the following April just seems to be a bit muddled. So that's why I wanted to bring that to the attention of the body.
I am a little confused. So are you making, so what we have on the floor is this 3rd version of the, I want to call this right, the second alternate, right? So this is the 3rd version of whatever. But Alder Harrington McKinney, you're speaking of the original, that if we were to go back to the original to modify that language?
I thought that Alder, the Alder of the 1st District referred back to the original one, and I was just supporting why I was supporting. That's what I was doing. I was doing
thank you. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Okay. Any other comments? Alder Ugary?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just enormously complex. That's what I'm realizing here. And it's almost impossible to predict from election to election just how complicated it can be as the membership of the council changes. if we not only have the issue, which I think, and I appreciate Alder Tischler really making us focus on with regard to the advantages of tenure and familiarity that comes with spending time on a committee, but we also have varying older expertise at each election, varying interest levels of the alders and what they would prefer to do. And there is no perfect way to do that. I can imagine elections when, after the election, it's relatively straightforward what to do, and others that it's extremely difficult what to do. And it just seems to me that in the original version, the one-year terms makes the most sense to avoiding all of the complications that arise from those competing matters of how to make assignments. And so I would urge approval of the original. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Uger. Alder Tischler.
Yeah, I just want to repeat what I said back in February, how all of us, when we run for office, we make enormous sacrifices, we adjust our schedules, and we commit for a two-year appointment. And I think when we also are appointed and to serve on different BCCs, the same applies. And I think it provides also not just continuity for alders, so we don't find ourselves switched in the middle of our aldermanic terms to a whole new set of committees potentially. But I also think that what I'm proposing also provides some continuity for people from the public who serves on these boards. What it would do is especially in those cases where we have boards, committees, we would have one alder who is there all alders would be out there for a two-year term. They'd be staggered on those committees as well. So you'd have an alder with at least 1 year experience on that committee, and then potentially a new alder coming in. The way the original stands is we could find committees could find themselves with a whole new set of alders every year. Alders could find themselves with a whole new set of committee assignments every year. And I just think we need to keep some continuity. And again, what I put forth just in this latest version is just looking at about 7 committees that really have just one alder. And as we're going through the process of re-examining the structure of our committees and merging many of them, already the discussion would be merging 3 already. It just has one alder into 3. So I don't think this is terribly complicated. I think this actually makes things quite simple.
Thank you, Alder Tischler. Thank you, Karen. That's okay. Okay, I don't see any other hands. The motion on the table is for the second alternate, right?
Yes.
With that, I'm going to ask, is there a,
Roll call, please.
thank you. Thank you for not making me say that.
Vice President Duncan? No. Alder Govindarajan? Yes. Alder Conklin?
No.
Alder Martinez Rutherford?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
Thank you. Alder Uger?
No.
Trying to write this down here. Alder Harrington McKinney?
Yes.
That's 2 ayes and 4 noes.
Okay, so that motion fails, and that brings us to the main motion, which, is that the original one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, to the original motion then for 86-825. Is there any additional discussion or questions for staff? Salute. Alder Govindarajan.
Roll call.
Already, so there's no questions raised by the body, and a roll call has been requested. Alder Conklin, you have a question? Okay, a roll call.
No, I do. I'm sorry, Chair.
I'm sorry.
I hit the wrong button, but I do. I was just wondering if I could have, can Karen call back people's responses because we can't hear what they're saying in the room?
Oh, yes.
I would
absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yep, she wants me to go, Alder Govinda Rajan.
Oh,
aye.
okay, sure,
Yes,
sure, sure, sure.
absolutely. Sorry about that.
Okay, so a roll call, thank you. Karen, please.
Okay. Vice President Duncan? Vice President Duncan, aye. Alder Govinda Rajan? Alder Govinda Rajan, aye. Alder Conklin?
Aye.
Alder Conklin, aye. Alder Martinez Rutherford?
Aye.
I'm sorry?
Aye.
Alder Martinez Rutherford, aye. Alder Ugair? Aye. Alder Ugair, aye. Alder Harrington McKinney?
No.
Alder Harrington McKinney, no. 5 ayes and 1 no.
Okay, so with that, that item is disposed of, and we can then move. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. I'm sure we'll pick this up on the next meeting. Thank you, Alder Tischler, for coming in person. Appreciate it. And I cannot find my agenda. Once again. We did that. So I think, how many minutes we have left? This is the one more meeting? Okay, so we have one more meeting, and I'm sure we will probably discuss the exit strategy, maybe? You know, like it will be the last meeting and any notices. Yeah, so we probably will recap. That sounds good. If there's anything else that you guys want to discuss in the next meeting, please bring it up to Karen's attention, and we'll consider. With that, I think we covered the full agenda. I'll take a motion for adjournment. Alder Duncan, Alder MGR. And can I record a unanimous vote in favor of adjournment? Anyone opposed, please? Nope, nobody opposed, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.